Well, that sounds like a very nutritious meal plan. That, I mean, you're going to get everything you need in that. You're going to get your healthy carbs, complex carbs, healthy fats, good protein sources from the vegetables themselves. What other protein sources do you use? You mentioned you eat salmon, but in your lunch, was there something additional in there that's?
Well, the lunch has the full pastured egg yolk, or the
that's
the
right.
eggs.
That's right. Sorry. Great. I think personally, I've got a big interest in nutrition, and I think that's a big black box for a lot of triathletes. You mentioned having this big sugar addiction after you finished your Ironman, and triathletes who get into especially longer distance training, and longer distance could be training for some people. Maybe it takes them 3 or 4 hours to finish an Olympic just because of their speed. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you're out there for 3 or 4 hours. If you're doing a half Ironman or an Ironman, no matter how long or how fast you are, the fastest people are still out there for 4 and 5 hours for halves and 8 to 9 hours for Ironman, the pros. That's a long time to be exercising. And if you're not a pro, you're out there for 10, 12, 14, 17 hours. And people are just fueling themselves with anything they can get into their body. Using the products that are marketed to endurance athletes and athletes in general, Gatorade, Goo. I don't want to criticize any particular product, but I think it's really important that people are using the right thing for their body at the right time. If you were going to train for an Ironman again, would you change the way you feel for it, or would you?
Oh my God, completely.
Tell us what you would do differently. What did you do at the time as far as fueling, and what would you do differently today?
Okay, so at the time, I was doing, well, so for instance, I would get up at 4 in the morning and get on my bike, my bike trainer in my office, and just watch ridiculous Netflix documentaries, which was maddening. But, first of all, just at the time, having had the digestive issues, I had to get used to eating while exercising. So that right away was an issue.
Yeah.
And I really actually liked Hammer Gel. I think Hammer Gel makes a really good product. They have a chocolate one that doesn't have, it really doesn't have any crap in it at all, and it tastes pretty good, and they're good. So I was cool with that, and I was using those. But I was essentially eating pasta like 3 times a day. I was eating every 2 hours, basically, like a real meal every 2 hours, and then on the bike eating gels. I remember I remember eating gels as like snacks, even if I wasn't working out at the time.
Yeah.
Which is just weird.
I know people wwho do that. I've done that myself in the past.
Well, and so I had a coach who was awesome, and at one point she was like, you got to start getting used to the food. I was like, well, what do you mean? I've been doing gels and stuff. She's like, well, yeah, but they only have Power Gel and Power Bars on the course because they're the sponsors. So you have to get used to eating those just in case something happens to your stuff. I was like, okay. So I got my first pack of Power Gels, which I'm sorry, but they're just disgusting. They taste terrible. They're too sweet and whatever. But you know what? It took me 2 weeks of really struggling through it, nausea and everything, to get used to it. And then I did. But of course, when I get to Ironman France, they release a brand new, never before had flavor that was passion fruit, like guava berry. And it was so gross. But fortunately, I didn't have to use any of the Power Gel stuff on the actual course. I got to taste that one, but that was it. Anyway, so it was all, it's sugar, basically just sugar. And I have learned now the power of fat. And I'm not ketogenic by any chance. And I know that you can do an Ironman on a ketogenic diet. Ben Greenfield just did the whole thing on that, and people can do it. But I think what I probably would do now is just hydrate really, really well. I was using Salt Stick a lot on both the half Ironman and the Ironman. I never cramped at all, which was amazing. I was just so afraid of it, so I just kept taking the Salt Stick pills all the time. But I think that I would be fueling with a lot more fats and eating a lot less often. The other thing, by the way, that happened in Ironman was that I got to mile 80 on the bike and just got sick to my stomach all of a sudden. I don't even know why. And I got lucky, and I pulled into a aid station, and they were offering Coca-Cola. And I had never, trained trying that, but I was like, I just got to do something. And the Coke tasted so good and made me feel so much better. You do what you have to do. But
Yeah, well, that's an old home remedy for kids who are nauseated is Coke syrup. Of
course.
Yeah.
I have a bottle of Coke syrup in the fridge.
Quick, go get it. Great. So, can we talk a little bit about the physical training that you did?
Yeah, sure. So that's another thing is I would do that differently as well. So I did, again, I had a coach and she was great. She's the triathlon coach for the Air Force triathlon team. Mm-hmm. But I was training, you know, I got up to 25 hours a week of training. It takes over your life. And no matter what you do, Ironman training is going to take over your life. I feel like I could train for a half Ironman and still sort of maintain some normal existence, but Ironman just takes over. Mm-hmm. I was exposed to CrossFit endurance during my training, but having, you know, I didn't know what an Ironman was going to be like. I didn't want to take any chances. So I just sort of went along with a program, and the program was very gradual. My coach didn't want to work with me because she believed that I was going to have a Crohn's attack. And I convinced her that, you know, it would be on me, and she worked with me and it was great. But it was, you know, for 2 hours on the bike on this Friday, and then next Friday it was going to be 2:30 on the bike, and then the week after is 3 hours. You know, so it was just sort of like a slow, steady build up. I learned total immersion method of swimming, which I fell in love with, and really changed the way that I swim. And I also learned how to run better because I was a major heel striker when I started. So
lots of technique focus in addition to progressive training.
I tried to really focus on the skill. You know, I wasn't trying to do a sub 10, you know, Ironman. I just wanted to finish it and not die, basically. So I was really focusing on the skill as much as possible. And then the volume and the mental training was good, but I mean, I had dealt with a disease that was like going to kill me. So that was something pretty easy to keep in my mind. And there was a lot of times where I'd be running or I'd be on the bike and I would say to myself, like, you know, F you, Crohn's, basically, like, you're not going to win this, because I would feel something sort of rumbling in my stomach.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of self-talk. And that's something that you can't make more efficient. Like, you need 4 hours on the bike just to get your mind to that place. But CrossFit endurance is what I would use now and what I have used for other things and for training other people. And I believe that I could probably get away with 8 to 10 hours a week of training for Ironman.